Hello and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today, the 5th of October 2013. So in today's news we have some talk about high population virtual realms, 25 player raid lag, and of course just anything with lots of players in it. And then some stuff from the blues, which is actually pretty good. So let's get into it. For high pop realms, they said that since connected realms, virtual realms as they're now called, are mainly for low pop realms, that the higher pop ones won't be seeing the feature for now. And basically they said that while it's possible that some of the high pop realms could get a better faction balance, it would start running into the problem where in order to balance the factions you'd be running into issues with the maximum server population that would start to give queues and bullshit like that, which would never really be fun. And basically they said that it's a problem that they're aware of, but right now they're ignoring it because it's clearly more important to be dealing with the low and medium population realms, and that should be their main priority, and it is, so that's a good thing. But it is sort of interesting, the prospect of merging realms together, like the larger realms, to get better faction balance. First of all, there's a bit of a problem where, say you're the large realm, you're a PvP realm, you're horde focused, and 5 small alliance-leaning PvP servers get merged with that. How are you going to feel as an alliance player who is perhaps enjoying being in an alliance dominant server, and then you're plopped right back into a completely balanced one? I guess in a PvP server and stuff like that, it's the spirit of the game, I guess, and since it is designed to have both factions, but I can see that some players would enjoy not having to deal with the other faction. It's a bit of an interesting issue, that. And also, the entire idea of upping this maximum population, so say you had 30,000 horde players and 10,000 alliance players in a server. Well, that's 40,000 people, but to balance those you'd have to add 30,000 alliance people. Now that's like a server with, 70,000, if I can even remember what numbers I said. That's a lot of people, and, well, characters, whatever. How can they fit that in with their tech? Currently, I don't know what the maximum server size is, but you're going to start to run into problems where places are really crowded, especially, imagine the Timeless Isles on an ultra high pop server. That would be crazy. However, I'm not too sure that I'm against the idea of the servers being a bit larger in general. Now, for example, I'm in a medium pop server, and honestly, I'd like it to be very high, because while there are the annoyances that come with a high pop server, they're getting better at having mobs that can be tagged by multiple players and things like that. Honestly, I think they should just move to the Guild Wars method of basically any mob that you help kill, you get the credit for. That would be nice, and it would also work very well with high populations, because I still remember times getting in, I think it was in the Burning Crusade, it wasn't when it launched. It was some major patch day in the Burning Crusade, and I logged in. I didn't really know about patches, but I just remember being amazed at how many people there were. I remember going into places like Stormwind and Dalaran, and just being amazed by how many people there were, and how it was such a sort of big experience. And the biggest sort of example of this would definitely have been the Wrath of the Lich King launch. Funny enough, Cataclysm was a little bit of a letdown in terms of that. It felt very empty to me, the Cataclysm launch, which doesn't make any sense because Warcraft still had a complete crap ton of players back then, but I just remember the Wrath of the Lich King launch. I think it's because everyone was so hyped and so many people got in day one that it was just ridiculously, it was just so memorable and sort of special. So yeah, I think higher population realms would be a nice thing in general, and getting as many realms as we can up to higher populations is probably better for gameplay as a whole. I definitely think that there's some people who wouldn't like it, but I think they're definitely in the minority. And in a game like this, it's kind of about the majority, unless it's sort of things where any design decisions that affect, say, a minority would trickle down to the majority, but in this case it wouldn't. So yeah, it's interesting, all this virtual realm talk. It's a really interesting system, and it's not something that a lot of MMOs have done. Everyone else has just went with the sort of broad stroke server merge thing, which is nowhere near as good. Now, the next thing to talk about is also a bit of a technical issue, and that's 25 player raid lag. Now, of course, this just applies to anyone who is dealing with a lot of people at once. So that's world bosses, battlegrounds, things like that. And Blizzard pretty much said that it's something that they talk about nearly every day, because it is a massive issue. No matter how well designed a fight is or something like that, if players' basic control, input, isn't as responsive as it should be, it's never going to be fun. So most recently said that they've tweaked a lot of spells to be more efficient. I know that they did this especially with smart heals and things like that, where apparently they were trying to heal targets that didn't need heals and then bouncing onto another one, and it was just lots of actions going on that were needless, so they made those a bit smarter, I suppose. And a few other spells they've done similar things like that. And there's also a bit of a problem with the word lag. So yeah, basically, yeah, they are getting better constantly, and it's a thing that they are very much aware of. So really, I think it'll just be getting better. But I think it's worth talking about the actual word lag itself, because often it's horribly misused. Now, lag refers to the latency between you and the server, also known as ping. And a lot of people will just say they're lagging, but sometimes they don't really know the difference between FPS lag and actual lag. And FPS lag is actually a terrible word as well. It's a bullshit word, and it's a terrible way of using it. It's low frame rate. Lag is more of a client-server thing, really. And they have different causes, so it's important to name them differently. If your FPS is low, then you may need to lower your graphics settings or get a new graphics card. And of course, frame rates will be lower in a 25-person raid because there are more spell effects on the screen. Now, with low frames per second, what happens is that if, say there's like 10 frames a second, then your computer will probably, or Warcraft will be taking less inputs per second, so your movement and stuff won't feel as smooth, obviously. But yeah, it's still, don't confuse the words, and when you are like ever submitting a bug report or telling people, hey, there's something up, it's best to say exactly what kind of thing you're experiencing. But yeah, lag can be a bitch. The things I'd say, make sure that nothing is uploading off your computer. And that's one thing. Make sure Steam isn't downloading anything like that. And that's for just lag. If you are having low frame rate problems, you might just need to buy a new computer or a new graphics card. If you have a desktop, which I recommend everyone who's a proper, like a serious gamer, unless you have a lot of travel to do, get a desktop. It's so much more affordable, and it's so easy to upgrade things. You can just buy like a 760 or a kind of a medium-end graphics card, and it will probably run if I can even speak, run WoW and Ultra, which would be crazy and good. Anyway, let's talk about some of the numerous blue posts and things, and by numerous I mean 2. So when talking about the cross-realm, like heirlooms stuff, basically someone asking, they said that they would like to do things like move tabards and heirlooms into non-inventory slots. Now, I thought was interesting about this is that they were talking about this in the context of someone talking about cross-realm heirlooms. Now, this pretty much says to me that there's going to be a Battle.net account-wide storage thing for stuff like Vanity items and that sort of thing. What's really needed by this is for it to be very big and have everything that's searchable via like a keyword, or at least has like different categories, so you could click on the tabard category, click on the vanity item category, the usable item category, the heirloom category, stuff like that. I think this would be, well, just a pretty great way of freeing up bag space, because at the end of the day, when you look at your bags, you always have those like 10 items that are just random things you don't really want to delete, but they're just there taking up space. Really, bag space is just such a pain in the arse in WoW. I wish perhaps they stopped doing things like dropping random greys. I don't think they do anything fun. They're just more clutter, and they're just a thing that's left over from the way RPGs used to be. Just have the mobs drop gold. You know, we're just going to sell those things anyway at a vendor, so why the hell drop them in the first place? They're not really that interesting. Now, apart from, say, if it's like a random, special grey that gives you like 200, 300 gold, drop them. That would make greys actually something that are interesting, which I think is a better design philosophy than just have loads of crap greys and the odd time a good one. So, on to the other thing, and I'm just going to read out the question and Blizzard's response because I thought they were pretty interesting. So, the guy said, I remember when people were begging Blizzard to change the loot system and implement a working LFR. Why are the same people who are using Flex crying about LFR when you can separate yourself from the horrors of the pug? And Blizzard said back, one causes a cognitive bias called projection bias. Essentially, living inside your own head your entire life makes it... living inside your own head your entire life makes it exceedingly difficult to understand how others do not also live the same way as your life, think the same thoughts, and hold to the same beliefs. In many cases, it's quite frustrating to try to empathize and understand with why yourself may not be the center of the universe, and generally results in one acting out in various ways. We're all guilty of this behavior. There are generally results. There are also brain chemical reasons that exist to help us form tighter bonds to those who are like us, safety in numbers, but may also be agnostic to those who are not like us, which is self-preservation. And we do this to some degree every day, and basically that's kind of the internet. This is true. I think things like this, once you're, I suppose, intelligent enough to realize that all these cognitive biases and things go on naturally in your own head, you can just say, no, this is stupid, and stop them. That's what I do. It works. You can defeat nearly anything like this with just will and brain power, really, and it's quite simple. But in general, I'm sure you've all been on the internet and you have seen a lot of people who do shit like this. Yeah, what can you do? I mean, there's times when people have accused me of being really like hard against LFR, but you will notice that I always like respect that form of play because I know that, well, if I couldn't raid, if my weeknights were busy, then I would be an LFR person or a flex person, and that's totally cool. I just think that sometimes those things are getting in the way of other features in the game, because not because of the fault of the people who play them, but because Blizzard sometimes don't make what I would view as being the best design decision in that specific like circumstance. But yeah, it's interesting, the whole cognitive bias thing. I think a lot of people, this problem can be fixed if people just think about what they say before they say it, but because people don't do that, it probably won't happen. And that's it for today's show. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.